Hi, I'm Andi the Knittress, and this is my podcast where I like to share with you all of the things that I do with yarn. Yarn, thread, fiber, wool, whatever. It's been a little while since I recorded. I just didn't feel like it. And yeah, I didn't feel like recording, so I didn't. But because I didn't record, I did get a lot of stuff done, I think. This I finished. This is called I think it's the Wild Oleander Cowl by, I think it's Andrea Williams. It's listed, I'll link it down below, maybe, or it'll be on my Ravelry, or you can message me or ask me and I'll give it to you if you're really interested. I did this out of all of my hand spun yarn, so this is some of my hand spun yarn, and I striped it in sections. There's some skeins that were small, some skeins were bigger and I had more of. And I simply love it. One of my coworkers said that she's like, don't take this in a bad way, but it totally has like Garbage Witch vibes. So like the Garbage Witch from the Labyrinth, when she's got all the trash on her back, she's like, those colors kind of remind her of that. But I love it. It's too warm to continue wearing it, so I'm going to take it off. But I just wanted to show it off. It's crocheted. You start with, well, it's a pattern, but you know, it's kind of like a shawl, and then you have a cowl that you pick up and attach to it. And I kept adding a stitch at the back accidentally, and so it got really a lot wider than it was supposed to. I'm not the best at crochet, but I don't care because I love it. And I just love all of this, because what was I gonna do with some of these hand spun skeins that I had that were all just like individual? So this is really perfect for very cold mornings that we have here, and I love it. So another thing that I have been working on, like, oh, excuse me, my chair, non-stop, is, so Aquila and Johnny Bow of A Lefty Knitter and Knitty Bow Fiber Co. Have been killing it over there with all of their hand-dyed yarns. And then Aquila has a service where she will crank the yarn. If you could send her yarn, or if you purchase their yarn, you can get it cranked into a tube. And so I took advantage of that, and I bought quite a few of their colorways. And so with a 100-gram tube, I can get a pair of socks for me and my husband if I use alternating heels and toes. And if I want a taller sock, I'll also do a cuff. But so I got these done here. This is Kiss Me, I'm Shit-Faced. It's a song by Dropkick Murphys, so I had to buy that. My husband and I are big fans. These ones are my husband's because they're massive, and I made them a little while ago. I had them done for St. Patrick's Day, so they are worn, but they're clean right now. And I did, I want to say it's Hedgehog Fibers. I had some minis that I got, and I just had to use that color because it looks like gold or beer. And so then this pair is mine. And with these, because I had her crank the whole tube, and this was the first pair I did. I had the bright idea, oh, I'll just drop down and make them ribbed. And that took so long to do that. It took me longer to drop down and rib on these two socks than it did to knit the heels, toes, and cuffs on this pair and these two pair. Let me grab those. So I got the heels, toes, and cuffs done on this pair and these two pair in the same amount of time that it took me to drop down on each of these. So needless to say, I decided not to rib the rest of them, and I just had them be taller socks. So these two pair from 100 grams plus one mini that was, I think there's 87 yards if I remember correctly in the mini that I used for that. And then, oh, I'm horrible, I don't remember the name of this colorway. Something to do with, it reminds me of Twilight Sparkle because John dyed it after his daughter's bicycle, like that's the vibe he was going for. So maybe it's like, I don't know. Anyway, I decided to do pink heels and toes and cuffs on mine, and I don't know if you can see the sparkle, but they're sparkly. Oh yeah, you could see that a little bit. And then I did my husband's pair. His socks are way too big for our blockers. And his favorite color is purple. And he's like, yeah, I'll rock some purple sparkly socks. So I just love that about him. I did his pair with a purple toe, heel and cuff. And these are still wet because I had to wash them he had them on his feet yesterday, and I took them off his feet and I washed them last night. I was like, I need to show those on my podcast. And then this is Guy Fieri. It's Guy Fieri on fingering. Fingering Guy Fieri. Johnny Bo's hilarious. If you don't watch their podcast, Aquila does her own podcast where she films all week and then she compiles it together at the end of the week, and then her husband dies on the weekend and then he posts it. They usually post on Saturday and Sunday. They're hilarious. I absolutely love them, and I really enjoy watching all of it. But there's these socks for my husband, and we've got the bright orange heels, toes, and cuffs. It's funny, I was watching the other day, and he said, Andi the Knittress, and I was giggling because sometimes my husband says the same thing. He says words weird. But I'm not done with mine yet. So this is the other half of that tube, and what I do is I just put the toe on one end, and then I put the toe on the other end, and then I cut it in the middle, and I separate them and do the cuff. Actually, I usually do the toes, then I cut in for the heel here, and then I cut in for the heel here, and then I separate them and do the cuff. So it's like afterthought everything basically. And I did like a bright yellow for like Guy's hair on my socks. And then I've got a little cheeseburger stitch marker on there because, you know, diners, drive-ins, and I don't know if I can say that. Anyway, and then he dyed up a colorway called Don't Spill the Mommy Juice, and I fell in love with that. I love this colorway. And I had some minis from my advent calendar that I got from work. And our minis were dyed by Driftwood Farms Yarn and Candle, and they have their own little shop over out on the coast, and their colors like completely matched perfectly with these yarns. It's like almost like they were dyed together. It's insane. But those are mine, and those will be his. He likes his toe to be a little shorter and wider, and mine's just like a regular toe. So those are going to be awesome whenever I get those done. I kind of got burnt out a little bit on knitting heels, toes, and cuffs, and I've been, you know, squirreling out doing a bunch of, I think I have like 14 whips right now, and I think 6 of those whips are sweaters, because I'm insane. I just keep casting on all the sweaters, and you know you have a problem when you have an interchangeable set and then you go to cast on a sweater and you don't have any needles in your interchangeable set because they're all on projects. So I really actually need to finish some things, but I don't care. I like casting stuff on. So the other thing that I've been doing a lot is weaving, and which I showed you guys a little bit of weaving last time, but I have been trying to perfect like a dishcloth, and I don't like to dive in and get all the knowledge and just like study before I do something. I don't want to study, because that would take the fun away from what I'm excited to do. So I just want to dive in and just weave, and then I'll learn as I go. And because I'm that way, sometimes I make mistakes. It happens. It does. So I was trying to weave dishcloths, and I want to say it's 8-2 cotton. You can see right there in that cubby I've got a couple of cones that I bought from the Woolery. I want to say it's like Blue Mills Fiber something blue. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's 8-2 cotton. It's really cool. So I cast on, and I was going to do like houndstooth dishcloths, but I warped on single on my 12.5 Heidel, and with the yarn, because it's like a little thinner than fingering weight, I did achieve houndstooth, but it is very, 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 very thin. Like, you can see me through there, I think. So it's a lovely drapey, like, table runner, a nice thin scarf that's cotton for the summer. I learned how to do, nope, I'm lying, I just tied these. I did learn on something how to like weave in your ends properly, but I still had fun doing this, and this feels nice. It makes a nice fabric. It's very interesting. So then I figured out that wasn't, you know, what I needed to do. So after I finished that, I went ahead and warped up I double warped my Heidel with that yarn, and then I used a single weft, and I came up with these awesome dish towels. And I really don't think I showed these before, but if I have, oh well, you get to see them again. The warp is these stripes this way, and then I wove, and I have all of these different colors that I wove across with. So this one was woven across with the green, So you can see in that green section there, you know, you don't see a difference there. So this is the green that was woven across that one. This one was woven across with the pinky coral color. And this one was woven across with the yellow. You can see I have a color palette here. I like pinks and greens and purples and blacks. This one was woven across with the purple. And I have been patiently waiting to use these till I could show them to you all. But so I warped on really long, and then I measured my warp section, leaving enough for to sew the ends. And so I just warped it really long and then cut it, ironed it, sewed it, threw them in the wash, and then ironed them again so that it would be wrinkle free for me to show off. And I just love weaving dish towels. It's just simple, plain weave. It's just an enjoyable thing. I can sit and watch TV while I weave, and then I'm not the best at my sewing machine, so my ends aren't perfect. My sewn in ends aren't perfect, but I love them. So that brings me to a mistake when I was weaving. So I wove those, and that's an 8-2, so it's lighter than a fingering weight cotton. I got this cotton from work. Well, it's a cotton linen. It's a Zoe. I think it's by Juniper Moon Farms. If a Juniper, I don't know. It's called Zoe. And so it's a DK weight. And I really like the way that the double warp was and the single weft. And so I warped on the wrong size Heidel. I warped on my fingering weight Heidel with a DK weight yarn. And it'll go through the little slots just fine. However, when you go to crank it on, because something with the combination of it being too big and the linen and the cotton was just very toothy, and it would just get stuck. It wouldn't, they were tangling on each other, and I could not get it to crank on. And I had to spend a whole long time untangling my warp, pulling it out of the wrong size Heidel, pulling it through a correct size Heidel. But if you don't know much about weaving, or if you do know a lot about weaving and you're just gonna know I'm just an idiot, I'm not really an idiot. So the 12.5 has a lot more slots in it than my 10.5. And so I was trying to just transfer it evenly to the new one, but there's more strings than there were slots. So then I just decided to like triple up some and not some, and some and not some. So I did a pattern where there was 3 that were, they were doubled up. But because I had already warped it double, it was really like there was 4 strands of yarn in one slot times 3, and then 4 strands of yarn, or 2 strands of yarn in 3 slots. And I just kept alternating that. Anyway, I came up with this wonderful fabric. So if you can probably notice the difference between up here and down here. I played with the double and triple weft down here, but this at the top here is a single weft, and then you can see how it's like thicker and then thinner. If you look at this black, you see they're thicker and then thinner. And then right here you can see thicker and then thinner. So that is because that's how I ended up fixing my mistake. Anyhow, I am in love with this one. This fabric, this is like a really nice placemat. And I can throw it in the washer and the dryer, and it's just awesome. And I sewed, you know, I hemmed them or ironed them and then hemmed them, and I just really like it. But this, because I had such a hard time getting started on this, I figured I wanted to make it fun and I would just do whatever. So I tried a bunch of different patterns in the different sections. So this one, I played around using my pickup sticks for my loom and just had some different patterns where, you know, I'd be in the up shed and pull down the pickup stick and weave across, and then weave across back normal while I was in the down shed, and then weave across normal when I was in the up shed, and then pull the pickup stick down. And like it's a whole like pattern. I was just playing around. I don't have like an actual pattern that I can tell you that I did, but those are awesome. I really love the density of this fabric that it ended up having. It wasn't what I was going for ideally in the first place, because I didn't take into account that this was DK weight yarn and not fingering weight yarn. So here is another, oh well, let me show you this way. Another pattern that I did. And it's really cool when you start patterning how then like the back of it looks completely different than the front patterning. It's kind of awesome the way you can play around with weaving. This is going to be a long podcast today. And then here is another pattern. It looks kind of similar to some of the other ones, but I just adjusted where the pickup stick was, and then here's the back of it. And I had a lot of fun. So I got 4 placemats out of that, and then I just had like a little strip about this wide left. So I played around with some snaps that I have, and I made a little like envelope style purse. And these are snapped together too, so it could open flat if for whatever reason, I don't know. But I just thought it was cool, rather than just have a little strip of fabric that, you know, I didn't have anywhere to put. Now, I have had, in some of my other weavings, I have like leftover, and I just keep weaving, and then I sew, you know, the ends, I hem them, and then I just put them like, I don't know if you could see right here on top of my record player, I have a little piece of woven material that just sits on there to protect it from scratching. On my living room table, I have a little runner that I've woven on there. The very first piece that I wove that I showed you guys last time, it was like purple and pink, is on there, and I just like putting the little strips underneath stuff. But this one was a little thin to put anywhere, so I figured I'd make a little purse, and I think I'll attach like either a braid or an I-cord to either side here, and it could be just like a little side purse. My daughter has already said that she wants it, but I thought that was cool. I have a Halloween palette. It's my favorite colors. So another thing that I got done were I've been making pillowcases. So I've been taking some of the cool yarn that I have and weaving them together, and I wanted to practice. It's called a Clasped Weft. So you take one yarn that only goes so far across this way, and the other yarn goes so far across that way, and one of them is on your shuttle and the other one is just in a cake. And so you run the shuttle all the way across, and then you take the cake yarn and you loop it over the shuttle, and then you pull the shuttle back through, and then they kind of like lock onto each other, and you get this cool patterning effect. So you can see one yarn went all the way over, you know, to here, and then the dark yarn went over to there. So I just thought that was like cool. So this is just another one of those weird little fabrics that I have left over. And I'm having a good time with it. So this was the leftovers from weaving my first set of pillows. And here is one. And so this one I did a triple one, where I have one color here and one color there and a black in the middle. And I had a weird time with the center on where, because the way you do the triple one, you have to come up through the center in the same spot every time. But it wasn't looking right to me. I didn't like the way it looked. So I just would naturally go into the next spot where it seemed like I need to be, and then it would slowly travel one direction. So then I would intentionally travel the other direction, and then I kept doing that, and I got this cool zigzag in there. I just used some snaps to snap together, sewed up the sides, and then here's the back side where it's the blue, more blue one, and then the one that's pink and green. You can't really see as much. Well, I mean, you can see where the yarns change, but because these two colors were both variegated and they're bright colors with dark sections in them, it kind of blends together a little better. So that's why I tried to do the 3-1 with a solid color in between them. But this was really fun to do. And so when you do a clasped weft, it's like you end up with a double weft, because, you know, your yarn goes this way and it comes back that way on itself. So each time it's a double weft. So I really like the way you can definitely see the yarn pop through the warp on that. I'm really happy with how this turned out. It was a fun learning experience. So that was one pillow from that. And I measured as I went, like I knew how I wanted 16 by 16 pillows. So, you know, I wove a 16-inch section plus accounting for the seam allowance, and then switched it up and did the same thing. So this one is, well, when I wove it, it was opposite, but the way I sewed it is the same. So it was opposite to where the pink and the blue were on the other side. I switched sides with them. But this, in between, I did a purple in between them. And this is Forbidden Woolery. And these are Alexandra, the Art of Yarn. But they're older skeins, so they say Alexandra's Crafts on them. But I know that she's changed her name to Alexander Art of Yarn. This one I sewed a zipper on, and I am not the best at sewing. And I don't have a zipper foot, so I just made it work. I don't care. It's a pillow on my couch. I like it. The zipper I had was too short. I didn't center it, but nobody's going to be at my house inspecting my pillows, so who cares? I love it. So then Johnny Bow and Aquila, well, Johnny Bow dyed it, but had me with, he dyed a color where he did like a resist technique. I don't know a whole lot about dyeing, but it was just really cool to watch how he did it. And you know, he dyed the yarn in with like really tight, I think he had zip ties around it, and so the dye didn't take in those spots, and then he did cool like rainbow or whatever. But anyway, he called it Dark Side of the Loom, and I had to have that to weave up. So I got that and I warped that up. I had, I bought, so it was a sparkle yarn, and I bought a Plymouth fingering weight sparkle, and I warped up my loom, but I didn't buy enough because guess who doesn't do all the research and the studying for weaving? So I ran out, but it's okay because I had this section here, this warp stripe here, I had left over from my To The Max yarn that I bought that I put in my everyday slouchy socks. And then I ran out of that. You can see there's a clear stripe there. So then this warp was a leftover Knit Picks stroll that I got. It was like a test color that was like really black with a lot of rainbow. Like it was a big section of black and then rainbow. So you can see how like it's black and then there's little blips of rainbow, which I thought worked perfectly with this. And I am super happy with the way that looks. It looks like I did that on purpose. Like I had this cool detail. So this warp is all black. The weft is dark side of the loom, and there's dog hair on it because I have a pupper, but I am in love with these pillows. So this was the last one I did, and I just like was doing plain weave all the way across because I've been playing around with weaving patterns, and then I ran out of the dark side of the loom here, which worked out perfectly. And so then I have some leftover monster mash from the hat that I made that did the other side. So this is a cool freaking pillow, man. And I just like putting the snaps on top. It's just my favorite. It's easier. I have a bunch of snaps and I have the little hammer tool to put them on. And so this is a 12 by 12 pillow and I love it. I was able to get 3 pillows out of what I had warped up. And so this is another pillow that I made, and I did this cool pattern where you pick up 2 and you leave down 2 and you pick up 2 with the pickup stick on the back of the loom. And you can't really see the pattern too much here, but it gives it a nice like texture, like when you're petting the pillow. I really love the way it popped through here. Like this is awesome. And the back side of this pillow is the same. And then this one is probably my favorite because I did a waffle weave. And I only did the waffle weave on this side of the stripe. It was like a lot of brain work to play around and figure it out. And so this is plain weave, and then this is waffle weave, and I don't know. Well, yeah, you can see right here where you see all the little lines that were held forward, and then there's a line here that goes all the way down where that one was always like closer to the top, and then they only get tacked down in between there and there. But I don't know if you can see, but this one is so textury and so awesome, and I just love it. I love it. Dark side of the loom, best name ever, had to weave it up. It's awesome. John is really good at what he's doing, and he just goes with it. He just does it, and I just love anybody who just dives in and does something, because that's how I do stuff. I'm like, I don't know, I'll figure it out as I go. So, socks and pillows and weaving. I did a little bit of spinning. I spun up some bright pink and neon green, because I mean, even though I tend to wear, you know, a more muted palette, I like to accent with bright ass colors. It's just awesome. So this is a big old chunky, no clue what I'm gonna do with it, but I had fun doing it. It's just a 2-ply, and I'm really happy with the balance that I got, because like I said, I don't research stuff, I just jump in and do it. So sometimes my things aren't up to certain people's standards, but I don't care because they're up to my standards. I'm happy with it. It's something I created. I love creating. So I got this big floof ball of Lord knows what. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it's fun to look at and it's fun to squish. So then there's a whole nother can of worms I've opened up recently. Cross stitching. So I made this for my daughter. I've never played this game. It's called Among Us. She's obsessed with it. She likes the little characters. I crocheted her those little guys for Christmas. And I thought, why don't I make her some wall art to hang in her room? So she'll get a trio of these whenever I get around to doing the other one. This took quite a long time because it's so much color. Like I did the whole outline first and then I filled in, and it just felt like it took a long time. The words take no time at all. But I mean, I'm not the best cross stitcher, but that's pretty clean for the back there. Like I think for me, because I have done a little cross stitching in the past, and well, I'm still working on it. It's right there on that stand. I'm working on this set of moon phases, but I'm doing it on a cheesecloth and not Ada, so it takes younger eyes than I have. Really bright light. But she loves it, and now she's going to be excited that she gets to have this in her room because I've been holding on to it until I showed it on here. And so then, Mom, if you're watching this and you don't want your Mother's Day gift spoiled, look away because I'm going to show it. I'm really excited to give this to my mom. Oh, and then there's the ring light. Okay. It says, keep rosemary by your garden gate, plant lavender for luck, and fall in love whenever you can. It's a quote from the movie Practical Magic, which my mom loves that movie. She watches it a lot, and I just thought I'd make her this to hang in her house. Hopefully, which will be in Oregon soon, because my mom's gonna come move here. Fingers crossed. Someday. I can hope. Anyway, I love this little frame that I got from Michael's. It is, you can't see, but it's, the cross stitch isn't pressed against the glass. It's like a shadow box. So the glass is in the front, and then the cross stitch is in the back, so it's thick here. Oh, you can see there how it's recessed in there, which is cool. So I'm excited to give her that. I'm going to mail that to her soon. And then the other thing I made, one of my coworkers is awesome, and she's getting ready to move into a new house, and I wanted to make her a little something for it. And this is something that she says all the time. Stay spooky. Spooky. And so I did like a little gothic rose. I got this cool frame from Michael's, and it was wood, and I had my husband spray paint it for me. And I had to alter this pattern because this pattern was originally meant for like a big circle, well, bigger than this circle frame, and then there was going to be roses on each side. These little guys would have been on the sides and the top and the bottom, and the original pattern just said stay spooky, but I changed it to spooky. So I really hope, because I see that mirrored imaged, and I really hope you get to see it not reversed. But yeah, so that is the other cross stitch I've been working on. And then other than that, I've been working on sweaters and sweaters and sweaters and more sweaters, because I can't stop casting on sweaters. But I'm not going to show them all to you because I have too many. I have too many sweaters on the needles right now. I have a fluff nugget on the needles. I have a Fair Isle colorwork sweater that I am working on, where I'm trying to for that whole sweater carry a yarn in each hand the whole time. Usually when I do color work, I am continental. I am a thrower, not a picker. So usually I just drop the yarn that I'm not doing. If it's my dominant yarn, I drop it to the front. If it's my non-dominant yarn, I drop it to the back, and then I pick up the next yarn and I knit. It's a little slower going, but it's very even for me. And I'm trying to teach myself and expand myself, so I am working on a sweater that is both-handed, but it's like this big right now, so I'm not even going to show it. I cast on for an outline tank, which is technically not a sweater, but I consider it a sweater because it's a body garment. And I cast on for another one of this sweater that I'm wearing is called Hearth. It is by Danae Smith. I don't know if it ever did get released. I test knit this pattern, and I'm casting on another one because I love this sweater. There's a few things I want to change about it. One being I need it to be out of wool. This is acrylic, so sometimes I get overheated in it, but I do love this yarn. It's like Lion Brand jeans. It's so soft. And I want to make the sleeves a little looser on the next one. I just would like a little more room so I can actually wear it over like things other than t-shirts. And I want to put one more buttonhole a little higher because I just like when mine button a little higher. And I think that I messed up on this pattern a little bit when I was testing, because there's some special increases you have to do, and I think I increased on this side when I was supposed to do on that side, or vice versa. So I want to make it right. So I cast that on in this delicious yarn. This is Roan DK by Primrose, and it's a blend of superwash and non-superwash merino, and it is so bouncy. You can see the bounce. And this color, oh, all of the colors in this are freaking amazing. There's 230 yards in here, and it's a 3-ply, and that 3-ply, it's so squishy, and I love it. So I cast this sweater on again in this yarn, and I just love it. I mean, look, you can see that stitch definition already, that center double decrease there popping out, this brick pattern here. This another thing I love about this sweater is the button band is done with the sweater as you go. You don't have to worry about picking up all those stitches at the end. So, you know, here's my little mini sweater top so far. But I just love it. This is one of my favorite colors to wear. Sometimes with these greens, I can't wear some of these greens because they'll make me look jaundiced, but like this particular, like if they tend to be more of a yellow than a green, but this one is just, it's a me green. It's definitely me. But I am in love with this yarn. It's just so fun to work. I cast this on like 2 days ago. And it's pretty much been the only thing I've worked on. And the other sweaters that I have cast on, I have this plan. So Michael Shawn wrote this pattern. It's called Superstitious, the Superstitious Pullover. And it's got all these awesome charts in there, and there's Winifred and Mary, and it says Hocus Pocus, and there's some bats and some brooms, and I am in love with it. And I can't really show you any pictures because there's no pictures in the pattern. It's just this cool layout. I love a cool pattern. And then everything else is the chart, so I don't really want to give it away. And I do believe it's a free pattern. on Ravelry, which is insane because it's amazing. But I went ahead and drew up a little picture of the sweaters that I'm going to do. So I'm going to do a Winifred and a Mary and a Sarah. And it's my crazy little drawings. Don't judge them. But I am super excited. One of the charts he has, it says amok, amok, amok. So I want to have all 3 of those done before October. And I got them living in my Lila Styles bags. This is Winifred, and then I have, you can't see, but there's a basket right there back here that has the yarn for the other 2 in there. And I am using Forbidden Woolery, and I think they're called Forbidden Fiber Co now. The BFL, it's my favorite yarn. It's my favorite yarn. And I'm just in love. I'm just in love with this yarn. And I've got it all picked out, and here it is so far. I blocked it a little to see, you know, if my color work was doing, it's going to be fine, and it is just fine. I love the spider webs up here. There's a Winifred there, and I don't know if you can see a bat there. I'm going right back down into more spider webs. This yarn is my favorite. It's squishy and bouncy, and it's a BFL, and I thought that, you know, BFLs and Cormos, and that's where I would get that texture that I love, but that Roan has got that same feel that I love, but in a merino versus a BFL. But I'm excited. But I actually haven't worked on this for a little while because I keep casting everything on. It's not a problem. I mean, it is a problem when I don't have the needles because I don't need to buy any more needles. But I'm going to have all the sweaters. Oh, I also have 2 cardigans on the needles. One for me and one for my husband. I'm working on, I might have told you guys before, I'm working on second breakfast cardigan and the Danny cardigan. Is it the Danny cardigan? I don't know. Whichever pattern that I'm working on for my husband, there's some issues in that pattern. I'm having a hard time. I think I've put my notes on Ravelry. I know not everybody uses Ravelry, but if anybody decides to make it and they have any questions, you can absolutely ask me what I did to fix it. There's weird instructions like for the pockets, and I just did whatever I wanted to do for it because the instructions didn't, like, it said to cast on the pocket at this spot and knit it this long, but if you did it that way, it would have been sewn down to the ribbing at the bottom, which in the picture it didn't look like it was that. Anyway, I'm not showing it to you either how. This is a really long one. Hopefully I can figure out how to get these edited together. Until then, just take it one stitch at a time because that's all you can do.